Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. I am back with another bi-weekly reading vlog. This is for the past 2 weeks because I didn't get a chance to film it last week, but I'm here filming it again this week. So we've got a lot to catch up on. I'm going to jump right in, but in this video, just a reminder, I'm going to be talking about the books and the reading that I finished the past 2 weeks, what I'm currently working on, and what I'll be reading next. So let's start with what I have finished. I'm going to go in order of when I finish them just to keep everything straight so I don't forget anything. First up, we have Orphan Train Escape by Rachel Weston. This is a mostly historical fiction with a little bit of romance thrown in, especially at the end. I loved the characters most of all in this book. They were completely endearing and just hits you straight at the heart. This book was written with such heart. It was full of heart, and I loved it all. Next up, we have a Dresden short story. This is Bigfoot on Campus by Jim Butcher. Of course, this short story had me on the edge the entire time. This was a great story to A, advance the plot of this series overall, and B, develop our characters. After that, I finished Born a Crime, Stories from a Childhood in South Africa by Trevor Noah. John and I listened to this audiobook on our bookstore road trip, and we both loved it. It was a reread for me, a first time for John, and he said it was the best book he's ever read. I loved how Trevor Noah was able to balance politics, history, religion, his personal history, his personal life with everything that's going on at that time and throughout his life in both America and South Africa and throughout the world. It was just such a well-balanced book. I love it every time I read it. After that, I have a short story by Lucia Berlin. This is Temps Perdue from the collection A Manual for Cleaning Women. This is a short story about a woman in a hospital who has a patient who reminds her of a past love, and she kind of goes down memory lane when she meets this patient, and it was an interesting expose and just a glimpse into this person's past life. After that, I finished Lust by Mike Wells. This was kind of a thriller mystery book. I was not a fan of it. This book felt shallow to me and not developed nearly enough, and it kind of felt like one of those books that are sometimes, not always, but sometimes written by men with a woman protagonist that they're trying, but it just comes with all of those stereotypes, and it just didn't feel like there was enough given to make her own agency. She just fell into all of the classic stereotypes, and I wanted to see her break out of those. She talked about breaking out of them, but then she just kept falling into more and more stereotypes. So I wanted to see her break out. After that, I finished The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. This book was amazing. I loved it so much. At first, I wasn't quite sure if I was gonna like it or not, but I realized quickly on that this is a book that you just kind of have to go with, because eventually most things get explained. Even up to the very end, there's things being explained. And so if you're confused or you're wondering about things, it's just one of those books you have to go along with, because eventually you'll get it. The last book that I finished in this past 2 weeks was The Fiery Cross by Diana Gabaldon. This is book 5 in the Outlander series. I actually just straight up listened to the audiobook version of this instead of doing my usual immersion read, because I just had a lot going on. I had a lot of reads going on my book cart already, so I thought, you know what, let me just stick to the audiobook here, and I loved it. I love all the character development that we get in this book, and kind of like series plot developments too. This is one of those books that it becomes really, really important in the series as a whole, and there are some books that are like that, but you don't realize it until later in the series. This book, I think, and like Ben can correct me if I'm wrong because he was reading this along with me, but to me, it felt like there are certain moments in this book where even as a first-time reader, you know these are big, important moments. Even though not a lot happens in the story, in that book individually, these moments are hugely important for our characters, and I loved the balance of the character development and the series plot development, and I'm just loving this reread. So let's talk about what I am currently reading. I am making my way through The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janny Wurts. This book, I am less than 200 pages, maybe less than 100 pages now. I am determined to finish this by the end of the weekend. I have tonight and tomorrow to finish it, and I'm determined to finish it by then. And I am loving this book. Love all the world building that Janny Wurts has built into this, and all of the different plot twists. I never know what is going to happen. I'm always surprised when I'm reading this. I'm also reading Winds of Strife by Yuri Gutman. This was a big, epic fantasy self-pub book a couple years ago. I never got around to it when it was being read by a lot of people, but I'm reading it now, and so far I am interested, but I need to read some more in order to see what my true feelings are about it. I like what I'm reading, but I don't love it so far. I'm also reading Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is a thriller mystery that was recommended to me by one of my supporters, and I'm really enjoying the humor in this book so far. I was not expecting all this humor, but our main character has kind of like this sarcastic humor going on, and I'm kind of really enjoying it, and I'm interested to see when this book is going to pick up, because I've heard really great things about it, but so far it's just sitting at kind of the like level for me, and I want it to get to the love. And then the last book that I'm reading is an immersion read. I started the audiobook, and then I remembered that other people who have read this book in this series told me it definitely needs to be an immersion read, and that is A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin. Now, I was able to follow along mostly on the audiobook, but I think while I was listening to the audiobook, I realized I would get even more out of it if I'm reading it along in my hardcover copy. So I changed to an immersion read, and I am really intrigued by this story so far, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I also went back and started listening to one of my favorite podcasts, LeVar Burton Reads, which is kind of like reading Rainbow for adults. I loved reading Rainbow growing up, and back during COVID, I used to listen to this podcast all the time because LeVar Burton, our Reading Rainbow host, is now reading for adults, and he's reading speculative fiction, short stories in his soothing, calming voice, and I just love it. So I decided, usually as I'm trying to fall asleep when John's not here, I listen to audiobooks, but because of the audiobook that I've got going, I need the physical book with it. So I decided to jump back into this podcast, and it's the best choice ever. LeVar Burton's voice is so calming and relaxing, and he does this thing right before he jumps into a story. First, he talks about the story itself and the author and why he's reading it, what he loves about it. And then right before he jumps into his rating of it, he says, okay, now everyone, let's take a deep breath. And you can hear him audibly taking a deep breath with you. And release. And now let's begin. And it's just so relaxing. I love it. And I wish I thought of this before. So that brings me to what I'm going to be reading next. I have 2 books lined up so far. Well, I have a whole slew of books, but 2 definitely slotted for our next 2 slots. That's Sky Full of Elephants by Sibo Campbell. This library hold just came in, and there's a bunch of people already behind me, so I need to get to this really soon before it comes up. This one I will start after I finish Listen for the Lie. And then The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, which of course continues my Live Ship Traders reading and the Realm of the Elderlings universe reading, and that one I'll start once I finish Curse of the Mistwraith, or vice versa. Maybe I'll start Sky Full of Elephants first. I'm not sure. Anyways, those are the next 2 books up. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite reading moment from this past 2 weeks? What are you looking forward to reading the most next week? On Tuesday, this coming Tuesday coming up, I have a long video for you. It's so fun. I go through all of the books that I got on our bookstore road trip. There are so many books. It's almost 30 minutes long. You can skip around to different parts if you want. If you see a book that you don't want to listen about, skip ahead. Feel free. But that one's coming up on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, I think I have a spoiler-free review for Witchcraft for the Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrick. which you definitely will want to log into for. So I'm really excited for these videos coming up in this next week and all of my reading coming up. Let me know again what you loved reading this week, what you're looking forward to reading next week. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.